Good morning, students. Advocate Bapusab Hunde High School in Avla welcomes you all back. Myself, Mrs. Naira Sheikh, your English 1 teacher, has come up with a new video for you. Our today's topic is lesson number 16 from your Balbharti textbook. Name of the lesson is No Formalities Please, Part 1. Students, we have always learned that there are two types of letters. The first type is a formal letter that is written to either a person of high authority, like your principal, to the municipality, to the light office, etc. And the second type of a letter is an informal letter that is written to someone whom you know, who is close to you, like maybe to your friends, to your relatives, someone who is very known to you. Today we will be learning more about formal letters. The name of our chapter once again, No Formalities Please, Part 1. The students of class 4 greeted their teacher, Mrs. Desai, before they sat down. So, as we see in the slide, that Mrs. Desai is their class teacher of standard 4th, and the students all stand to greet the teacher and welcome her in the class. It was time for their English lesson. Shall we bring out our Balbharti textbook teacher? Asked Shruti. So Shruti had a question in her mind. Since it was an English lecture, she asked her teacher, Mrs. Desai, if she could remove out her English Balbharti textbook. Not now, said the teacher. We are going to learn letter writing today. So the teacher says, it's not yet time for you to remove your textbook, and there's no need for that, as we are going to learn letter writing. Some special types of letters. Come here, Javed and Nisha. Please distribute these notebooks. So the teacher calls out two students. Who are they? Javed and Nisha. And she tells them to distribute the notebooks that were kept on the table. Now, which two types of letters have I mentioned to you earlier, students? Correct. One is a formal letter and second is a informal letter. And while they give out the books, continued Mrs. Desai, let me give you some good news. The students were all ears now. Their teacher announced with a smile new arrivals in the library and plenty of them. So students, as you all love to go to the library and read different types of books in the same manner, these students also were very excited to know that now there are new arrivals. That means there are new books come up in the library. Now let's see what type of books have come up in the library. There are story books of every kind, like you see in the image, the Jungle Book, David and Goliath, etc. There are also informative books. That means books that give you information with lovely pictures in them. So there are not only books that are like story books, but also there are informative books that give you knowledge and also have images in them, so that the book turns out to be more interesting to read. Books of puzzles. There are different books where puzzles, it increases and boosts one's brain power and forces us and enforces us to think more and more. Joke books as well are there. All have been displayed in the library, so you will know which one to ask for the next time you are in the library. So she gives them the information of the different types of books that are available in the library, so that whenever the students want to go to the library, they are informed, well known about which books are available and which one are of their interest, so they can go and grab those books and read it as much as they want to. Oh, lovely! I can hardly wait, were some of the eager responses to this piece of news. All were excited except one. What is the use? Complained Felix. So everyone listening to this news of the new arrivals come in the library, they all were very, very excited. But leaving one. Who was that one, students? Correct, it was Felix. But what was his complaint? Felix complained that there was no use of these lovely books coming into the library. Now let's move ahead to know why Felix had this complaint. We can have only one library period in a week and hardly for half an hour too. So what was his complaint? He said that in the entire week we have only one library period and that too is only for half an hour. Just when the story gets interesting, we have to leave the book and go to class. So he said the moment we get interest into the story, we get hooked onto the story, we like reading that story. In that moment, the bell rings and it is time that we have to leave our book there and rush back to class. Now Varsha joined in to say, for 2 weeks I have been waiting to know what happened to the Pied Piper Himlin. There was a holiday last Thursday and we missed the library period. So Varsha was reading the book Pied Piper of Himlin, and past 2 weeks she's waiting to know what has happened into the story ahead. But she's not got a chance to know that as there was a holiday a Thursday prior to that, and later for 2 weeks she had no knowledge about what has happened in the story. Mrs. Desai realized what her students said was perfectly true. So now Mrs. Desai realized that although she is given this piece of good news to the students, in spite of that, it makes no sense because these students have not much time to read the book that is in the library. She decided to request the principal to allow them a home issue facility for class 4. After all, they were big enough to look after the book they take home. So now Mrs. Desai thought of an idea. So what was the idea? That she thought that we'll request the principal to give a home issue facility. That means to allow the students of class 4 to take the home book with them that they want to be reading at home. And after a week in the next library period, the students would return the book back again into the library. Now students of class 4 are smart. They are big enough and responsible enough to take care of their own things. So this was Mrs. Desai's idea behind the home issue facility. Hey, wait, thought Mrs. Desai. There's a better way to do it. Why not let the students themselves write a letter of request to the principal? After all, that was what she had planned to teach that day. How to write polite, formal letters. So when she was thinking about all these letters into her mind and how to request the principal to give a home issue facility, she thought for a while and realized that that is the topic on what she was going to be teaching the students that day. So she planned, why not to allow the students themselves to write a letter on the same topic to the principal. But remember, the letter has to be a polite and a formal letter. That means a letter that is convey your message in a polite manner and to the point. It should not be very lengthy. What an opportunity! A good subject for a formal letter, and of course, a real situation would make the learning more effective and interesting. When Mrs. Desai suggested this to her class, they were very excited. So she was so happy that when she suggested that giving a chance for the children to put a real situation into the letter, it would be becoming very interesting, and the students were very excited about the same. Without losing much time, Mrs. Desai began to teach her class how to write a formal letter. So without wasting time, without losing much time, she decided to teach the class about how a formal letter is to be written. The sender's address and the date should be written in the upper right corner of the page, she thought. So she told them that the sender's address, that means who the person is sending the letter, the person who's the sender, their address is to be written on the right corner, upper right corner of the page, like it is shown in the image here. The next step is to write the name or the post of the receiver near the left margin and then write your address below that. So the next part is to write the address of the person whom you are sending the letter to. And after that, you must write the subject of the letter in short below the receiver's address, she further instructed. And after writing the receiver's address, below that you have to write a single line and mention about what is the main topic, what is the main reason, the subject behind writing the letter. That's something new, remarked Sharon. We don't mention a subject in a friendly letter, do we? So when a friendly letter has been written to your friend, to your relative, to your parents, during that time, students, you don't mention a subject for that. But when you are writing a formal letter, like here in this lesson, the students are writing a formal letter to their teacher, to their principal. So during that time, they have to write a subject. But when you are writing it for your relatives, for your friends, you don't have any need to write the subject. Of course not, said Mrs. Desai. What do we do next, teacher? Shruti wanted to know. So after the teacher told them and gave them brief information about the letter, Shruti had another question. She wanted to know what would the letter have to be continued next. You address the receiver writing Dear Sir or Dear Madam. Remember, the rest of the letter should also be written in a polite manner, in a polite language. Right to the point, Mrs. Desai explained. So she told them that when you start your letter, you have to be very polite into your letter. So when you start, you have to address the person concerned as Dear Sir or Dear Madam. And remember, the letter is to be written in a short manner. It does not have to be very lengthy. And should we end it with yours lovingly? Asked Renu. So she put another question, that should we end it with yours lovingly? So what do you think, students? For a person of high authority, will you write yours lovingly at the end? Do you know that person personally to write that? No, we don't. So you instead will write yours faithfully or yours sincerely. Oh no, said the teacher. You can write that to your friends or your parents or even to me. But when you are writing as a student to the principal, you may write yours faithfully or sincerely. So remember, when you are writing an official letter or a formal letter, you will always end it writing yours faithfully or yours sincerely. Do not forget to thank the receiver appropriately before you close the letter. So before ending the letter, students, we must not forget that we have to thank the person whom you're writing the letter to for their help. Come on, now let's draft this letter together. After quite a few errors, cancellations and changes, here's the letter class 4th wrote to their principal. It was written very neatly. Here's a letter, students, that class 4 had written to their principal. Their name, Pragati Vidyalaya Pustak Marg, Vachanpur, 6th of July 2014. And it was addressed to the principal of Pragati Vidyalaya Pustak Marg, Vachanpur. Now, why is the address of the sender and the receiver the same? It is so because the students have written on behalf of the entire class. Then the class is from the school. That is why the address here are the same. Now the subject of the letter, that is why the letter has been written. It is a request for the home issue facility, for issuing the home issue facility of the books so that the students could take the books home along with them. It started with, Dear Madam, we, the students of class 4, have a request. Our English teacher, Mrs. Desai, has informed us about many books that have arrived in our school library. We are eager to read them. However, it is not possible for us to finish reading a book during the library period, which is only once a week. May we have your kind permission, Madam, to take the books for home reading? We promise that we shall take utmost care of the books and return them on time. Yours faithfully, all the students of class 4. So see students, how polite the letter is. Is there anything harsh written into the letter? No, it is purely a letter of permission. They're asking for permission from their principal for taking the books that are in the library at home to read them so that they can get sufficient time to read the entire book. Students, I hope you understood this chapter. I would now request everyone to kindly subscribe to our channel to avail further notifications of our upcoming videos. Till then, be home and be safe. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.